Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here. Welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays, a weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. I'm super tired this week, so apologies if I'm a little sluggish when it comes to my answers, when it comes to my cadence of speech. Word cadence is way too much of my vocabulary as of late, and as such, this intro is going to be a pretty short one. Couple of things. One, last opportunity. Stop falling over. Last opportunity to buy the Aloha plush over the next several days. So if you haven't grabbed one of those, be sure to do that. And again, thanks to anyone who made it happen, who has pledged, who has bought one, because I really wanted to make this happen since I wanted to make it happen when Aloha was alive, and now that he's passed, you know, I'm just glad that I can keep my little boy with me. And everyone else has a chance to do it as well. There's going to be a Magic Spoon ad in this video, link in the description as well. Probably going to be in 2 videos this week, just because I'm doing my Magic Spoon ads a little bit late in the month, so I'm trying to, get them in as many as I possibly can. And I'm going on vacation on Wednesday. I might release a patch note video, but it's definitely going to be light on content. I also won't be releasing any content the day of patch as well. I won't be back until that day, and then I won't be making any content until the day after. Definitely going to get a lot of first-time clear content out that Wednesday, and then no guide for the Extreme Trial. But I'll still do breakdowns, thoughts, MSQ playthrough, basically going through everything as we would normally in a patch. And then, of course, the Relic when it comes out, Cosmic Exploration update, as well as the Deep Dungeon. I'll have videos on all of that when those contents individually roll around as well. But with that, let's get to the Magic Spoon ad, and then let's get to the questions, because like I said, I am so tired right now. Before we get started, the sponsor of this video is Magic Spoon. They make high-protein cereal, snack bars, and granola, and we've been working with them for quite some time. It all tastes great, and honestly, it helps me when my snackometer is going off. And yeah, I get a little snacky. I've been eating their products for years now, and I get excited every time a new box pops up. This latest one came packed with some delicious treat bars and some scrumptious granola. I'm always glad to have a high-protein option around, whether it be right after I get back from the gym, or honestly, sometimes I just want to avoid traditional snacks. If you'd like to try Magic Spoon while also supporting the channel, then click the link below to get some today. Build your own custom box of products with tons of available flavors to match your daily needs. Best of all, use my link and discount code Mr. Happy to get $5 off of your box. You can also buy it at your local grocery store, even on Amazon if you prefer. And if you don't like it, Magic Spoon has a 100% happiness guarantee. Let them know and they'll refund you, no questions asked. So click the link below or scan the QR code on the screen and use code Mr. Happy to get $5 off, or go to magicspoon.com/Mr. Happy to save $5 on your order. It even works in Canada and the UK. Thanks again to Magic Spoon for sponsoring, and now back to the video. Hashtag Mr. Happy space Mondays. I was curious. No, hello. Wow. This is how we're starting right now. Huh. I was curious as to what your timeline for the patches mentioned in the latest producer live letter. Oh, master thereof? Oh, master thereof. Okay. Chris Berman, probably the most recognizable ESPN Sports Center. No idea who that is. Maybe I would if I saw his face. Put on a Blue Mage Tell turban and predict football games. So yeah, put on a fortune teller turban. Yeah, so it should be 4 weeks for Cosmic Exploration and the Relic. So just add 4 Tuesdays onto the patch. So it's August 5th. So what? That's like 12th, 19th. 26th, it's August 30 or 31 days. The following Tuesday, 4 Tuesdays later. And then October 7th is most likely the day for the Deep Dungeon. What's interesting is that 7.4 predictions are the strange ones, because we theoretically should get that patch December 16th, but they seem to imply we're only getting 2 major patches, so that might actually not happen until January 6th. I get that it's a holiday season and maybe people won't miss it as much, but given everything that we've been discussing as of late, delaying a patch, not a good idea. So, but at the same time, Savage on Christmas, 2 days before Christmas, we saw how badly that went over with Chaotic. Maybe they'll learn their lesson, or maybe they'll, you know what they could do? They could probably actually do an 18-week cycle if they could manage it. And then the raid would come out on the 16th. Still not great, but nor do I think it'll happen. So I don't even know why I'm bothering with that. But yeah, that's my timeline for the next several patches. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hello, my haps. At least you did 2 of them. Made up for the last one. Hello. Just checking in how you're settling in South Carolina. I know you're a master culinarian in real life, but there's a crapload of good food in the local area. Yeah, there is. Curious if you found any local cuisine to your liking. If you found a favorite restaurant yet. If you're a seafood fan, Fleet Landing is a great place. Oh man, I've had a lot of really good food. I've had some expensive food. I've had some pretty like casual dining as well. I've had some different brunch places. I went to Marbled and Finn the first time I came to Charleston. So that was before I even moved out here. That was just the first time I visited. And I love a good steakhouse. That was definitely a really nice treat. There was some other fusion place that we went to that was like really highly rated. I don't think they had a Michelin star, but they were actually, you know what? I think they might have had a Michelin star. So I went to a place like that. Problem is I'm really bad at remembering names unless I go back there a lot because I'm still new to the area. So even if I wanted to name things all around, like, you know, the general Charleston area, it's really hard for me to remember without a list. I had one of the best chicken sandwiches I've ever had. Second best chicken sandwich I've ever had. The first is definitely still Howlin' Ray's in LA. But I had the second best chicken sandwich, and it was, oh my God, I couldn't believe how good it was. So, yeah, I've had a whole bunch of food here. One thing I'll say, burgers, burgers are tough because I make a good burger, you know, and it's so easy to make a good burger at home. But like every place I keep being told is a great burger place, I eat it and I'm like, this kind of just tastes like Burger King. It'll be like 4.7 stars and like the ratings, and it'll be like everyone will be like, oh, this is one of the hottest places. And I'll just be like, that's like a slightly better Burger King, double, you know, whatever. And they'll be like, are you out of your mind? And I'm like, I mean, what I make is just way better. It's been the least impressed I've been. It's definitely been with burgers up to this point. So, but I'm like, I think In-N-Out's a complete waste of money. But that's because their fries are the most disgraceful thing I've ever had come out of a fast food restaurant. Why do I need to order them well done? They should be done correctly in the first place. But the burgers are fine, but it's just like, I think it's just because I can really make a much better burger. So it's really hard to satisfy me, especially the seasoning on the patty. It always just feels lacking. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hi, Haps. Hi. As long as you just want to take the time to say thank you. I recently listened to your 11 videos at work a few times because I really wanted to get into it and play and finally see the story I've been missing all these years. Thank you for your content and the way you explained everything. I'm now getting to Rise of Xylart and cruising along. Anyone who wants to play 11, I highly recommend it in Happy's videos, especially the 2025 ones. So that's been on delay because I just haven't had the time. I actually didn't even have Final Fantasy 11 installed. By the way, sorry, my nose has been super itchy all day. So if you see me doing that, I don't know what's going on. Maybe this growing back in is tickling it. I have no idea. I also think I'm getting a zit on like the left side of it because it's got like a little stiff. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's that's been on a little bit of a hiatus. It's not a permanent thing. It's just I haven't had the time to record the videos. I'm just trying to live a more balanced than normal life while still technically working quite a bit is, you know, it's a little bit not in the cards for me. It's not something I'm used to. I don't know how to balance the workflow as well. And I didn't even have 11 installed on this PC until like a week and a half ago at this point. But that being said, yeah, 11, I always say at the very least just to experience some of the lower level stories. That's like one of the main reasons to play. It's hard for me to ever try to convince someone to play past that just because it's a lot of commitment. It's a lot tougher, and especially if you're not on one of the really high pop servers, which they're shutting down the ability to play on Asura to make new characters on Asura if you're not already, you know, a person who has a character on there. So moving to Bahamut then, but even then, it's really tough to convince anyone. But just playing through the story, yeah. And I will be continuing that when I have the time to record some videos, which will hopefully be sometime after I get back from vacation. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey, Haps. Hi. I've seen people continue to talk about upgrading Occult Crescent gear to +1 or +2 versions, but isn't all that gear going to be outdated? So, this is a question mark still, because the way that it worked in Eureka is that we actually had to upgrade armor at some point in order to actually move forward and get the final upgrade. So what I think most people are assuming is that by having +1 or +2 armor in the South Horn, that progress on that armor will carry over and in some way translate to being very useful in the North Horn. Now, bare minimum, having a bunch of bonus stats when you first go in, even if you would technically be outdated, would be far more beneficial. I don't know how they're going to progress the armor to the North Horn, because it will be useful there. But are they going to like require you to have +1 or +2 stuff to make +3 and +4? Is there going to be a new armor set that just has the stats so you can grind one or the other? Are they going to have a somewhat different stat line? So maybe you want like a abyss of like a mix of both and some. I don't know. There's big question marks around what they're going to do with that. But most people are assuming that this Occult Crescent gear is actually going to continue to be useful into the North Horn and then will be replaced in some capacity. Or at the very least, they'll be a lot stronger when they first get into the North Horn, even if they are going to replace it with something else. Gotta remember that item level won't increase. It's only the bonus effects, like the special action effect and the flat stats that we have. Those are the only things we're really looking at can improve, because your item level going up isn't really going to matter at all. And not to mention the +1 and +2 stuff isn't even a higher item level. It just has more of that special stat as well as your actual normal stats. So yeah, big question mark. I'm actually curious about that myself. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Fishing. Oh boy. Greetings, Happy. Hi. Hope that warden attempt a week or so ago went well. Welcome to the fishing life. Yeah, I did 2 separate attempts, but the first one I failed to get 3 indigo. So I tried a couple of fish eyes afterwards. It just didn't take, so I ended up giving that one up and then coming back for it later. Let's see. 2 enemy boss fights. Other than Dragon's Neck, from what I can remember, we haven't really had one that lasted the entire fight, but I feel Arcadian is definitely a place where we could reasonably do it, especially with the President trying to stop us from reaching the end, and with us stack the odds against us. What do you think of the odds of this are? I mean, I don't think you should ever specifically state, I think they'll do this in this raid tier, or I think they won't, because there's no way anyone would have predicted M6S without just kind of saying, I hope they bring that style of fight back. And so it's more like we're seeing them look at encounters that have been popular in the past and pulling inspiration from it. This is especially evident if you read the interview with the lead dev for the Arcadian, who specifically mentioned that they used turn 4 of the Binding Coil as kind of a framework for how to do the ad phase in M6S. So I think that simple fact alone means we should not expect it from specific things, but we shouldn't be surprised to see things like what you're suggesting show up. We do very rarely have 2 targets an entire fight, because Dragon's Neck is an easy fight, so it's not even a great example, you know what I mean? And yeah, even with let's say P6, I'm sorry, not P6, E6, where you have Ifrit and Garuda, that's only a small portion of the fight. And we do very frequently see multi-target sections, 2-target sections in individual fights as certain phases. We saw it in Fru, for example. I don't think we've really ever had the expectation of that being the entire fight. And I don't know if and when we will, but I don't think it's unreasonable to think they could do it. And especially with their design as of late, them looking at more unique designs overall and going yeah, we haven't done that, or we haven't done that in a while. Let's do it. And I'm all for it, because of all the things Dawn Trail has delivered on, it's been very good encounter design. The only thing that's really been lacking is good tank encounters. I'd say that's been a little remedied as of late, but other than Valagar Manda, we then went on a spree of kind of boring to tank fights, even if the fights themselves were pretty well put together. So that's kind of, I would love to see them really focus on getting tanks more engaged. And I think they've done an okay job of that even in the most recent content. So I'm hopeful that they'll continue to do that. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hi, Haps. Hi. Hope your vacation it will be, because I haven't gone on it yet, but do you think Square Enix changing up how they do zones in the future? My major critique of the zones is how they feel empty with you only being able to do fates in the occasional hunt train. What prompted me to ask this question is the new Destiny 2 expansion, Edge of Fate, saw a new zone Kepler take on a Metroidvania style of gameplay. You can explore the zone to find pathways, which leads to weapon and armor. It's the type of thing I would love to see CPU 3 steal. I wouldn't expect anything like that, largely because they want to make sure it's not confusing to navigate for the story. I also just wouldn't expect that in an overworld as a whole. Destiny 2 is kind of weird, because if Destiny as a whole, if you think about it, while Destiny is primarily an FPS game, it's kind of also an escape room. I think every major Destiny raid has an escape room in it, like a weird puzzle that needs to be solved, or an encounter that's not super straightforward and either involves specific environmental things or jumping or whatever not. It's strange to call it, but Destiny 2's kind of always trained their own players to think of ways out of rooms. It's crazy to say, but it is a lot like an escape room in a lot of their individual designs. So something like that almost makes sense in Destiny 2. In Final Fantasy 14, I don't think that type of mechanic is super good. Because here's the thing. It's not like you could do that for all your zones, but if you just do it for one of your zone, now you just have one zone that has this purpose that's beyond all the other zones. So you have one zone that's a little more populated, which to be fair might be enough for some people, but you've got 5 zones that don't have that purpose and thus are kind of, rendered meaningless. Now, keep in mind, even if you're going to liven up open world content, you can't do it equally across every zone. But I feel like it would have to be weighted very specifically towards that zone, and that would just, I don't know, if anything. I also don't know the interest level, because let's be honest, the rewards are not going to be like item level and stuff. You know what I mean? Destiny is able to, and everyone will do whatever they can to roll as much gacha loot as they can in Destiny, because it is a looter at the end of the day, so it's way easier to incentivize those styles of things. It's really unfortunate to say, but if Final Fantasy XIV had more looter mechanics, it would have an easier time incentivizing content. But I also hate that idea, because I don't want to roll on my loot like every week or every day, or like I just don't want that, because it really is something that, I mean, WoW basically did the same thing. WoW was like, let's just do Diablo loot, and they were, I don't know what it's like now, but for like, it was like that for a really long time, where it was really just about rolling as much like gacha as you possibly could to get whatever loot rolls that you could actually like feasibly obtain. And I was one thing I like really didn't like when they really started leaning into that more in World of Warcraft. So, if anything, let's just start with fates being drastically improved, increasing fate engagement with the actual environment of the zones, and honestly, even just some basics. I mentioned in a recent video, fates need to be worth more EXP. They need to rethink how often they update fate rewards. They need to create more incentive for players to consider them a viable gameplay option. And I think if they can't do that, then thinking beyond that is too hope and cope for me to sign off on. Let's get the basics down first, and then come up with some crazier things, because otherwise we're just chasing dreams that are never even gonna cross the table with that. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hi. Here's hoping you have a nice and enjoyable vacation. Thank you. So I remember hearing the team talking about having more job identity as we go into 8.0. That being said, what are two jobs you really think need this? What are some ideas you'd like to see? So I want to be clear in my answer, in that I'm specifically referring to job identity. There are some jobs I think that need changes that would drastically overhaul major portions of them, but I don't actually think their identity needs to change. Machinist is actually a good example. Machinist, I feel, doesn't do enough damage, and its AoE rotation is an absolute mess. It has so many of its tools that are tied into AoE that are disjointed from the rest of its design. Even the fact that auto crossbow doesn't reset your OGCDs, your double check and your checkmate, to this day mind boggles me, and it's why every decision they make in regards to the AoE is I genuinely don't understand. But I actually think the job identity of Machinist is largely in an okay spot. It's like, I like this whole like rapidly shooting, stacking up these, like the debuff on the wildfire and having all these really powerful tools. There's a lot of really satisfying buttons to press. Not to mention they have dismantle, they have a raid wide damage reduction. Like, they actually have some really good stuff. It's just that half of the job feels like it was designed by a different person, and that person has never met the person who made the normal job. But for job identity, I think they should revisit White Mage. I feel like when people think of Sage Scholar and Astro, they see clear identities and like at least what the core job mechanic is doing, whether it's the playing of the cards or the signs or in the past, or the fairy or the shields. Like, White Mage just kind of exists. And it's kind of, it should stay a simple job. I don't think we should make it complicated in any regard. But I think they should maybe consider the lilies not a strong enough piece of job identity, and kind of just do it all over again. Like, it can still be a simple job and have way more interesting and engaging of a gameplay mechanic than lilies are. So White Mage is definitely number one. Number two, honestly, this is going to sound kind of crazy. Viper. I think that Viper, when it first came out, already kind of it was in a weird spot, because it basically seemed like Reaper 2. And it's kind of similar to what people said about Dark Knight, when it first swapped over to being a lot more like Warrior. I think back in Shadowbringers that was. It's going to be that same vibe. And then when they actually even took away some of its gameplay mechanics a few weeks after the expansion launch, at that point, it really just seemed like, it's not like the job can't be fun for people. It's not like it's strong. It was massively strong in this tier. But it feels like it just never actually had its own identity because the core mechanic of swapping between dual blades and pushing them together is so arbitrary that it's not, you never care that you're engaging with it. It's not an actual piece of the gameplay. So, actually, yeah, White Mage and Viper. If I needed a runner-up, it might be Red Mage. If it was a caster, I would say Red Mage. I think Red Mage's identity has been played out at this point. I think it's too stagnant and doesn't allow it to go anywhere. And if I had to name a tank, maybe Dark Knight still. I feel like Dark Knight is hilarious because they got rid of Dark Arts because of spam, and then they gave them another button to spam. It's just not Dark Arts, and now you spam the new button more than you ever did Dark Arts. So it's really strange. So yeah, Dark Knight, if I had to name a tank, I would name Dark Knight. But I know you only asked for 2, so my first 2 answers, Viper and White Mage, definitely at the top of my list. But that being said, there's some other jobs that I think could use some core identity updates. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey Haps, got a question. Sure, hello. I would like you to answer to settle a dispute amongst friends. Uh-oh, am I about to break up some friendships? Talking about what roles would be most likely introduced to 8.0. Okay, before I even read the next part, tank and fizz ranged. It has been exactly that amount of time since we got Gunbreaker Dancer. Both those roles haven't seen an update in that time, so if we get 2 jobs, tank, fizz ranged. Now let me see what the prediction is. I think it'll be tank and fizz ranged. You're correct then. With double healers from now on. No. They've been very clear. Pretty much every expansion will have a DPS. They said that DPS is, a role that people are more likely to see and be like, I want to play that. It's the most it's not just the most popular role because it has the most jobs. It has the most jobs because it's the most popular role. Most people just like slamming their face against buttons and dealing damage. So they'll pretty much always have a DPS unless they go down to just 1 job, mind you. If they ever do that, then I don't think we never get a tank or healer again. I think that falls a little bit flat, but never double healer. No, I was like they introduced 2 healers at once. Wait a minute. So what was the dispute? Because I thought you were going to say that you had a thought and your friends had a thought. Is it just that you had your thought and they thought you were silly? Because your first prediction's right, but the double healer thing, no, definitely not that. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hi there. Hi. Hope you're doing okay. Yeah, other than being tired, I'd say I'm doing pretty good. An extra hello in case anyone missed theirs. You got that other person. We had a hello, but like that's an actual I got that other person. You're good. On topic of last week of new jobs, I always had thought dual weapons were a cool idea. Maybe swashbuckler as a cutlass and an offhand pistol. That was one of my predictions actually for this expansion. Was not swashbuckler. Giving it a name is always I think trying to guess the name is nearly pointless for almost any job prediction nowadays. I think what you're doing predicting the weapon is actually the best thing to do, and then finding out what the job name is. A little bit of a cop-out, but, I think Viper was a hard prediction. Picto, obviously, if you're going to predict a job that, has a name in the Final Fantasy franchise, different story, so Picto was an easy guess. Let me rephrase. Picto was an easy thing to see the weapon and go, oh, that's Pictomancer. You know what I mean? But, I would be hesitant to say swashbuckler, especially when Corsair exists across Final Fantasy. But I actually predicted sword and an offhand pistol. That was my original prediction for what Viper was going to be. Something like Diablo's Demon Hunter, dual wielding hand crossbows. I've actually asked for that in the past too. I actually kind of hope our new Fizz Ranged is a dual crossbow wielder. I think that'd be really cool. Think we'll ever see future use of the offhand slot. So keep in mind, my predictions, while they include having a dual weapon, never expect the offhand slot to be a part of that ever again. They've been very clear that offhand slot, if they could, they would get rid of it. Paladin is actually the only reason they keep the offhand slot, because they want people to be able to glam a different sword with a different shield. And it's already been that way, so if they take it away, it's just not going to go well. But don't ever expect them to actually use main hand offhand ever again. It's not that it's a bad idea, but they've just expressed that they would rather just make one item, both weapons. And you'd be like, oh, but I mean, I want to customize and have 2 different weapons like Paladin. Listen, your logic is completely sound. You're not wrong. I'm just telling you what they've said. So the offhand slot, no, but both your weapon types that you've listed here are not impossible things to expect. Just not using the offhand slot. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey, Happy. Hi. Hope things are going well. They are. Hope the same for you. With the 7.3 release date confirmed for 8.5, that puts us expected 7.4 at release date. Yeah, I think I just talked about this earlier. With Savage drop at 12.23, with that being right in the middle of peak holiday season, yeah, I mean, I really do think they're delaying till January 6th because they said in the New Year's post back in January, or end of December / 1st of January, that there would be 2 major patches in 2025. That would imply a 3-week delay of patch. Was that 3 weeks? Or was that 2 weeks? It'd be December 16th, so 23rd, 30th. Yeah, that would be a 3-week delay. That'd be a 22-week patch cycle. Listen, that's rough. Like, here's the thing. Like, I get it. It's on the holidays, but like I said earlier, I'd rather they just push the patch up a week. Like, push it, make it release on December 9th and then put Savage on the 16th and have people rush it out before the holidays than do the alternative, because I really don't think they can do a 22 play. There's way too much unrest, and there's way too much dissatisfaction at the moment. I do not think you can afford a 22-week patch cycle, even if it gets things out of the way of the holidays. Like, it's bad, man. But yeah, that is the most likely occurrence. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Heyo, Haps. Hi, and a handful of others in case some are missed. I got a few backups here. It's working out all right. To go off the question from last week about thematics over specific job names, I was curious instead about gameplay specifically for the upcoming tank job in 8.0. We don't know if it's a tank job, but as I stated earlier, it is one of the most likely predictions. So, just clearing the air, we don't know that for certain. What archetype of tank would fit in? The tanks we have already fitting niches. I think we have more super offensive looking tanks than we have protector style tanks. That's why I want double shields, or like Mason shield, or something that is more protective. Because like Warrior's a berserker, Dark Knight is like edgelord, I'm jumping at you. Gunbreaker is I'm going all in. Frontliner. Paladin is the, I am your holy protector, stand behind me. And all the other ones are like, you're going to be behind me because I'm just running forward. So I actually think in terms of archetype, specifically job fantasy wise, I really think we need for a tank, another protector style tank. Someone who, helps others when they're standing behind them. The shield is the iconic thing for that. But like, I don't care if it's one big shield, 2 small shields. I don't care if they're... something. Maybe they be creative about it. Maybe they'll do like mecha wings, like Sage like mecha wings that like guard for you. I don't know. Like, it's something, right? That's it. I was curious what tanking archetype hasn't really been touched and is feasible to implement. I mean, there's of course druids. There's transforming tanks as well. That has. We don't have a transform. At some point, I feel like 14's gonna do a transforming job in some capacity. And it's going to be really, really weird, but I think it'd be a tank in all honesty. So, that's a big one. I know we never get an evade dodge tank, but something like Stagger from Brewmaster, without inconsistent. Yeah, I do wonder if we see any sort of reworking to the way tanks take and deal with damage at some point to allow them to open it up. But I honestly just think they're going to be, again, looking at the, how these jobs, access their power, and less about and the actual job fantasy, and not so much about creating a whole new archetype or digging into a new archetype like evade or dodge tanks. I just think that's the more likely route to see them take. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey, Happy. Hi. I know you made joking remarks about being completely overdone with ocean fishing. I'm getting close to the end of the grind on my end, approaching 2.5 million points. Thinking about the possible new routes in 7.4x, assuming they continue the trend. Probably going to leave some points unclaimed to finish my 3 million points when the new zones are added, so I don't do as much extra fishing. But that made me wonder if new zones routes would bring me back. There would have to be some sort of big chase. Just getting a new route and getting new fish is not going to bring me back. They would have to force me back with another torturous achievement. That is equivalent to my world-class troller achievement. It is the only way I would consider it. And let me tell you, don't. And you know what? It'd be really easy. They would just have to do, 3 million points on the Ruby route. Only on the Ruby route. And be like the Ruby troller. Or if they make another new route and they do the same, that's all it would take. And I hope they never do it. Don't do it. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey, Haps. Hi. Hope you're beating the heat during the scorched summer. It was over 100 today, dude. Wild. I saw you were streaming big fishing here. I thought you swore off that grind after World Class Troller. Was there anything that changed your mind? So, number one, my girlfriend, she is a big fisher. She actually got me to do a big fishing jamboree. Like, we like hunted. I think we did 12 different fish. And we competed against each other to see who would catch more of them, and I won, of course. I am a troller. I do have plenty of fishing experience. And then my stream was asking me about it too, so I just decided to do it. Whoops has been asking me to do it for ages. It just kind of like boiled over where I said, let me stop being resistant to the idea and give it a shot, right? That's actually kind of been my mentality with a lot of things. I've had my community talking about Guild Wars 2 a lot lately, so I decided to give that a try. I've had my Discord talk about old school RuneScape stuff, decided to give that a try. And I'm just kind of going with the flow a little bit more based on like what the discussion in my community is like. And just trying to enjoy it, like still kind of being smart. Like here's the thing, there's a lot of things I actually want to do in 14 right now. It's crazy because everyone talks about having nothing to do, but I'm somebody who does so many things. I'm a rare person. Like I'm not the example that people should strive to be in 14, but I have so many interests and I like having like rare things that sometimes I just get an itch to do something in 14 that I otherwise like I wasn't doing or I've been putting off for a while. Like I'm putting off the mount farming in this expansion until later down the line because I've been doing it on patch for a few expansions now and I just wanted to not do that. But now I'm also, occasionally going to dive into big fishing. I just talked about what it would take to get me back in a world-class troller before the next deep dungeon comes out. I'm going to actually get Necromancer. I sold to 200, but not from floor 1 because I had world-class troller, so I didn't want to use the Necromancer title anyway. And then, yeah, I'll probably actually go back and finally do my Eureka Ortho solo because I didn't want to do that because the early floors were such a slog that I was getting super bored. But I'll try that done. I like getting things done is the big thing. So big fishing is just something else I can get done. That's kind of all it really needed to be. I've just been putting it off because I don't really care about fishing. I also did cosmic exploration. So it's like, well, at this point, I'm kind of committed to the idea. I'm also going to do crafting and gathering stuff. So might as well go all in. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, yo, Haps. Hi. I know you still can't know what they'll do with Occult Crescent, but based on your prior knowledge of Eureka and Bosia, how do you think Square Enix will handle Occult Crescent currency? Will they roll it forward so that you can stockpile it now and bring that forward into the new patch? Or will they create a new currency or two to prevent people from walking in and buying everything? Most likely a new currency. Almost certainly a new currency. I don't think you can use the old zones, the old field ops, in any way to predict that. Bosia, you can a little bit. And Bosia is really the one that I'm going off of here. But there's no saying for certain. But I think you're right in that. Here's the thing. What you can also do is you can make some new items super expensive and cost more than the amount that you could hold. But I don't think they want to do that either. Like you can make it so it's like 5,000 gold for like this one token. And you can only hold up to 10,000 gold. So, you have to buy like 10 of these tokens, so you can roll in and get an extra 1 or 2, but that's not going to really help you that much. They could do that, but I just think they'll do a new currency for the North Horn altogether. All right, I'm feeling super tired, so I'm going to actually just lightning around through the rest of these. Somebody asked, when going out to see a movie, what genre do you look for? I don't look for a genre. I don't actually go to the movies very often, but I really look for a genre. If I see a trailer and I think it looks cool, then, I'm down to go see it, or at least I'll watch it when it comes to, DVD, YouTube, whatever. Then there was a really long one here. And then I feel bad lightning rounding this one because it actually starts with, sorry if the wording is confusing. Forums ever seems to have met in the game, trouble dancers. Esprit gauge management seems to me like my fellow dancer friends are always overcapping on Esprit during bursts, specifically having to delay Talana. Yeah, I've talked about that a whole bunch. It's rare I don't have 100 gauge for at least one GCD during burst. Devs ever say why? I asked about Talana, and they very specifically stated they didn't want to do that because every job, they don't want every job to be exactly the same. It's one of the reasons why they didn't give Talana it wasn't just like an enables the use of one free skill. It was very specifically gives you 50 gauge. It was literally just so people didn't criticize it for all the jobs for being exactly the same. And also the reason why it can't go over, well, I mean, I guess they could make it so that one specifically overcaps. I see what you're saying there too. They can make it so like specifically the Esprit gain from Talana can bypass the 100 gauge limit. That wouldn't be a bad idea. You would still technically waste Esprit during burst that way, but I understand where at least that sentiment is coming from. And make sure your skill doesn't go to waste in a roundabout way. But honestly, I hate to say it, but homogenizing it and making it such as it gives you a buff for a free use is probably the way to go instead. And then there was one here. Opinion in regards to the possibility of integrating Bosia-like content like duels and CEs into the main areas. Unlikely, but not impossible. I think duels are really not going to happen because then the zones with duels would be probably more popular. This kind of goes back to what I said earlier. Their core system for Fates is so neglected that just taking these systems and putting them in the overworld doesn't work. You fundamentally need to make overworld Fates more valuable as a whole and not rework them when they're not valuable enough as is. So this is something that would be like a step 2 after the thing that I said earlier. And even then, I don't think duels, I don't think it's unreasonable to expect critical engagements in zones, but people have to feel like it's worth doing these overworld critical engagements. They have to scale properly, and enough interesting ones have to be made across each different zone. So, yeah, this would be step 2 of like what I said earlier, I think. Then there was one Steel Series question. I'm looking for a new MMO mouse. So you're looking for the I'm trying to remember the model name because like I always think back to the Rival 500, which was one of my favorite. This is the Aerox 9. That's what it is. I was wondering if you had any recommendations. The only Steel Series MMO mouse I recommend is the Aerox 9. The other ones are either not MMO mice or they are hybrids. I love my Aerox 9. Especially, so the Rival 500 used a non-standard MMO mouse design. Instead of using the numpad on the side, it used an ergonomic design, which I loved. I loved being able to like lean my thumb in different directions and it would just hit a button. And everyone who bought a Rival 500 from me, they were skeptical and they ended up loving it. But because it was against the norm, converting people who were using a Naga or another similar mouse like that, or like the G600, that Logitech one, the conversion was terrible because they were like, what the hell is this? That's not an MMO mouse. So they made a standard one with the Aerox 9. And, I mean, it's pretty much identical. The big thing is that it has like an airy kind of design where it's got like an open fenced design. And honestly, my hand sweats a lot less with it. So my hands would sweat a lot with my Razer Naga. And I don't get any of that here. It doesn't really get that dirty. I blow it with a little bit of canned air every once in a while. You can open it up and clean it if you really want to. But surprisingly, even with 5 cats, mine's actually pretty clean. But the Aerox 9 is the one to go with if you're going to do that. And I've really enjoyed mine. I got it right before DSR came out. And it never broke. I did replace it when I moved. Only because I just shipped all of my equipment. Like, I just bought, like, a whole new set of the exact same equipment I had and just shipped it directly to, South Carolina. So I didn't have to travel with a keyboard, a microphone, a boom arm, a mouse. Like, I just didn't want to travel with all that stuff, so I just gave that stuff away and then just replaced it. But it wasn't broken. It was all still working perfectly fine. So from DSR until right before I moved a couple months ago, yeah, that's pretty good. So, yeah, Aerox 9, if you're going to use it, that's definitely the one. Hello there, Senor Happy. Another 11 question. I was thinking about using a job that isn't in 14, and honestly, Corsair is kind of calling to me. Corsair is cracked. You will not be disappointed with Corsair. Can get a little expensive if you want to use, all of you want to use every part of it, but Corsair is cracked. You will not regret going Corsair. I promise you that. Hello. What do you think will be when do you think they'll fix the PF problem? Yeah, they've said they're working on the cross data center PF for a while. We just haven't heard about it. They should really update us on that, because at this point, I'm willing to bet it's an 8.0 feature. But like, again, they really need to get used to the idea of saying things about stuff like this, because we really need to know these things, because people are wondering, and just because, you're not mentioning it, which makes us nervous in a sense that you're like not even working on it anymore. So they really need to say something about it. Let's see. Stream Guild Wars 2. Some Guild Wars 2 raid achievements need purposeful failure of certain raid mechanics. Do you like that design? Only if... So World of Warcraft does this too. Only if it doesn't present a situation where it's almost impossible not to wipe. If it's like, failing this would normally completely wipe your group, but you need to like super buff and to survive it, or like some like crazy amount of like, I don't know. If it as long as it's... what's a good example? I'm trying to think of a WoW example. Naxxramas. There's got to be one in Naxxramas where you technically have to not do something that makes the fight harder. I don't know. I'm trying to think, but it's not coming to me. But yeah, I mean, we have some of that in here. Like, we had to do Ultima Weapon Ultima's like mechanics kind of incorrectly to do them correctly. And there are probably other examples of that too that are not coming to mind right now. but I think it largely depends on the severity of the failure to determine whether or not that's a good or bad idea, especially for an achievement, right? Because for an achievement, it's right, like, oh, here's this thing that you're really supposed to do correct, and if you don't, it makes things awful, but you can still technically clear. Like, those I think are actually good for the game, as long as it's, again, not this like over severe punishment that you have to overcome in an ultra specific way, and it's really like good gameplay is fixing this mistake that you're now making on purpose. There were some other hashtags that were mostly just comments that I ended up kind of skipping around, so apologies for that one. But that's going to be a wrap for this week's episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. Apologies again for the shortness in some of the answers and for the lightning round at the end. Just feeling really tired, and I kind of want to get some food and get to bed. So I'm going to get this rendered and get this posted for tomorrow. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Remember, if you have a question, ask in the comment section. But also remember, there's a high probability I don't upload Mondays with Mr. Happy next week. There's a small chance I am bringing my laptop with me to my vacation. And I may, if I have some spare time, just quickly record some stuff. So you might see beach haps. I don't think I'll literally be on the beach, but you might see like tropical haps with a little bit of a tan if you do see me at all next week. If not, then I'll be back for the following week, Mondays with Mr. Happy. So with that, thanks for watching. Ask your questions in the comments below, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, take care.